Homeless man plays guitar, and a little black boy stops to listen. The ending is heartbreaking. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Riverside Elementary's playground as children spilled out through the heavy metal doors, their backpacks bouncing and sneakers squeaking against the pavement. 7-year-old Malik Thompson walked slower than most, his small fingers gripping the straps of his worn blue backpack while other kids raced past him toward waiting cars and yellow buses. Malik preferred the quiet walk home. The 30-minute journey through Oakwood Park gave him time to think about the day's lessons, to watch the squirrels dart between oak trees, and to avoid the loud groups of classmates who never seemed to notice him anyway. Today felt different, though. As he approached the park's main pathway, something unusual drifted through the afternoon air, a melody so hauntingly beautiful that it made him stop mid-step. The sound came from an old acoustic guitar, its strings singing a tune that seemed to wrap around Malik's heart and squeeze gently. He followed the music like a moth drawn to flame, his small feet carrying him off the main path toward a weathered park bench near the duck pond. There, hunched over a battered guitar with fingers that moved like magic across the frets, sat a man unlike anyone Malik had ever seen. Leon Washington was 53 years old, though the streets had aged him beyond his years. His clothes, a faded brown jacket over a gray shirt and jeans with patches on the knees, told the story of someone who called park benches home. His beard was streaked with silver, and his dark eyes held a sadness that seemed as deep as the pond beside him. But when those weathered fingers touched the guitar strings, something extraordinary happened. The sadness transformed into something beautiful, something that made the very air around him shimmer with possibility. Malik crept closer, fascinated. He'd never heard music like this before. At home, his mother played gospel songs on Sundays, and at school, they sang simple nursery rhymes. But this was different. The melody seemed to tell a story without words, painting pictures in Malik's mind of faraway places and adventures he'd only dreamed about. The homeless man's eyes were closed as he played, completely lost in the music. His left hand danced along the neck of the guitar while his right hand plucked and strummed with the skill of someone who had been making music for decades. The guitar itself looked as weathered as its owner, scratched and dented, with one corner held together by silver duct tape. Yet in Leon's hands it sounded like the most beautiful instrument in the world. Malik found himself sitting cross-legged on the grass about 10 feet away, his backpack forgotten beside him. He watched in wonder as Leon's fingers created magic, as the simple combination of wood and strings became something that made his chest feel tight with emotion he couldn't name. Time seemed to stop. The sounds of traffic faded away, the chatter of other park visitors became distant whispers, and all that existed was the music. When Leon finally opened his eyes and noticed the small boy sitting in the grass, he didn't stop playing. Instead, a gentle smile creased his weathered face. Their eyes met for just a moment, brown meeting brown, and something passed between them. An understanding, perhaps. A recognition that they had both found something special in that moment. The song came to an end with a final, lingering note that seemed to hang in the air like morning mist. Leon carefully placed his hands flat against the guitar strings to silence them, then looked directly at Malik. "You like music, little man?" Leon asked, his voice gravelly but kind. Malik nodded eagerly but didn't speak. He was naturally shy, especially with strangers, but something about this man felt safe. Familiar, even though they'd never met. "What's your name?" Leon asked, adjusting his position on the bench. "Malik," the boy whispered, then cleared his throat and said it again, louder. "Malik Thompson." "Well, Malik Thompson, I'm Leon. Leon Washington." He gestured to the guitar in his lap. "And this old girl here is Melody. Been my companion for more years than I care to count." Malik's eyes widened. "You named your guitar?" Leon chuckled, a sound like autumn leaves rustling. "Every good instrument needs a name. Melody here has been through a lot with me. She's got her scars and rough patches, but she still makes beautiful music. Sometimes the most beautiful things are the ones that have lived a little, you know?" The boy didn't fully understand what Leon meant, but he nodded anyway. There was something profound in the man's words, something that felt important even if its meaning escaped him. Do you play here every day?" Malik asked, scooting slightly closer. "Most days," Leon replied. "When the weather's nice and the world feels like it needs a little music." He strummed a gentle chord. "Music has a way of healing things, Malik. Sometimes it heals the person playing it, sometimes it heals the person listening. Today, I think it might have healed us both." As if summoned by Leon's words, a gentle breeze rustled through the park, carrying with it the scent of spring flowers and the promise of something wonderful beginning. Malik looked at his small digital watch, a birthday gift from his mother, and realized he'd been sitting there for 20 minutes. Mom would be wondering where he was. "I have to go home," Malik said reluctantly, standing and brushing grass from his jeans. "Of course you do," Leon said, understanding flickering in his kind eyes. "Your family's probably waiting for you." As Malik shouldered his backpack and began walking toward the path, Leon called after him softly. "Malik?" The boy turned back. "If you ever want to listen to more music, I'm usually here around this time. Melody and we don't mind the company." A smile spread across Malik's face, the first genuine smile he'd felt all day. "I'd like that, Mr. Leon. I'd like that very much." As he walked away, Malik could hear Leon begin a new song, this one lighter and more playful than the first. He found himself humming along, even though he didn't know the tune. Somehow, it felt familiar, like a lullaby his heart had been waiting to hear his entire life. Neither of them knew it yet, but this chance encounter would change both their lives forever. 3 weeks had passed since that first afternoon, and Malik's routine had changed completely. Every day after school, he would race through his homework just so he could spend time at the park bench with Leon and Melody. What started as curious listening had blossomed into something magical. Leon had begun teaching Malik about music, showing him how different chords created different emotions, how rhythm could make your heart race or slow to a peaceful calm. Leon had even started composing simple melodies just for Malik, watching the boy's face light up when he recognized the tunes becoming more complex and beautiful with each passing day. The homeless man had discovered that his young friend possessed something rare, a natural ear for music that couldn't be taught, only nurtured. On this particular Wednesday morning, Malik sat in Mrs. Patterson's third-grade classroom, trying to focus on math problems, when Principal Davis walked in with an announcement that made his heart skip. "Good morning, children," Principal Davis said, her voice carrying the excitement that always accompanied special school events. "I have wonderful news. In exactly 3 weeks, Riverside Elementary will be hosting our annual Spring Talent Show." The classroom erupted in whispers and excited chatter. Sarah Chin immediately started talking about her ballet routine, while Tommy Rodriguez boasted about his magic tricks. Malik felt a flutter of something. Was it excitement? Fear? Both? "Now, students," Mrs. Patterson said, clapping her hands for attention, "this is a wonderful opportunity to showcase your special abilities. You can sing, dance, play instruments, tell jokes, or demonstrate any appropriate talent you have. Permission slips will go home today, and auditions will be held next Friday." As the teacher continued explaining the rules and requirements, Malik's mind wandered to the park bench, to Leon's weathered fingers creating magic on guitar strings, to the countless melodies they'd shared together. Could he possibly perform one of Leon's songs? The idea terrified and thrilled him simultaneously. When the final bell rang, Malik practically flew to the park. Leon was there as always, tuning melody with the patience of someone who had all the time in the world. Today, however, something was different. Leon's usual collection of guitar picks and sheet music was spread out on the bench beside him, and he wore an expression of particular concentration. "Mr. Leon!" Malik called out, dropping his backpack and rushing over. "Guess what happened at school today?" "Let me see," Leon said, stroking his beard thoughtfully. "You discovered that math is actually fun?" "No," Malik laughed. "We're having a talent show. Kids get to perform whatever they want in front of the whole school." Leon's eyebrows raised with genuine interest. "Is that so? And what might young Malik Thompson be thinking of performing?" Malik's excitement suddenly mixed with uncertainty. Well, I mean, I can't really do anything special. Sarah can dance ballet, and Tommy does magic tricks, and Michael can sing like the guys on the radio. I don't really have a talent like that. Now hold on just a minute, Leon said, setting Melody aside and looking directly at Malik. What do you call these past 3 weeks? What do you call the way you hum along to every melody I play, or how you can tell me exactly which chord sounds sad and which one sounds hopeful? But that's just listening, Malik protested. That's not really performing. Leon was quiet for a moment, then picked up Melody and began playing a tune Malik had never heard before. It was gentle but confident, playful but sophisticated. Somehow it sounded exactly like what Malik imagined he would sound like if he were a song. This, Leon said, still playing, is something I've been working on for you. A song that captures the spirit of a young boy who sees beauty in the world, who isn't afraid to sit in the grass and listen to an old man play guitar. Malik's eyes widened. You wrote that? For me? Every note, Leon confirmed, bringing the song to a gentle close. And I think, with a little practice, you could perform this at your talent show. But I don't know how to play guitar. Leon smiled mysteriously and reached into a worn canvas bag beside the bench. He pulled out something that made Malik gasp, a small keyboard, battery-powered and compact, clearly second-hand but well-maintained. Found this at a thrift shop yesterday, Leon said. Been thinking it might be useful for teaching. The melody I just played? It works just as well on piano keys as it does on guitar strings. Malik stared at the keyboard as if it were made of gold. You really think I could learn to play that song? I think, Leon said, placing the keyboard carefully in Malik's lap, that you have music in your soul, young man. The talent show might just be the perfect place to let it out. As Leon began teaching Malik the basic finger positions for the melody, either of them noticed the jogger who had slowed down near their bench, listening with interest to their conversation. The woman continued her run, but something about the scene, an elderly homeless man teaching a young boy to play music, stuck with her. That evening, at a dinner table across town, she would mention the strange sight to her husband, a security guard at Riverside Elementary. Strangest thing, honey. There was this homeless man in the park teaching some kid to play keyboard. Made me wonder what kind of people are hanging around where our kids play. But for now, in the golden afternoon light, there was only the sound of Malik's small fingers finding their first notes on the keyboard, Leon's encouraging voice guiding him through each chord, and the beginning of something that would soon become much bigger than either of them could imagine. Practice every day, Leon said as the sun began to set. Music is like friendship, it grows stronger the more attention you give it. Malik nodded solemnly, already humming the melody as he packed up his things. He had 3 weeks to master the song, 3 weeks to find the courage to perform it. What he didn't know was that those same 3 weeks would test the friendship he'd found in ways he never could have expected. The talent show permission slip crinkled in Malik's sweaty palm as he stood outside his apartment door, gathering courage. For 2 days he'd carried it in his backpack, practicing different ways to ask his mother. Through the thin walls, he could hear her humming gospel hymns while preparing dinner, a good sign, he hoped. Mama? Malik called softly as he stepped inside, the familiar scent of his mother's cornbread filling the small kitchen. There's my baby, Angela Thompson said, wiping her hands on her apron and giving Malik the warm hug that always made everything feel better. How was school today? It was good, Mama. Real good. Malik took a deep breath. Can I ask you something important? Angela's expression grew attentive as she knelt down to Malik's eye level. At 28, she worked 2 jobs to keep their small apartment, cleaning offices at night and stocking shelves at the grocery store during the day. But she always made time for these moments with her son. What's on your mind, sweetheart? Malik unfolded the permission slip carefully. There's a talent show at school in 2 weeks. I want to enter it. Angela's face lit up with surprise and pride. A talent show? Oh, Malik, that's wonderful. What would you like to perform? Maybe we could work on that poem you wrote last month, or you could tell one of your funny stories about the squirrels in the park. Actually, Malik said, his voice growing smaller. I want to play music. Piano music. Angela blinked in confusion. Baby, we don't have a piano. And you've never taken lessons. I know, Mama, but I've been learning. There's this friend who's been teaching me. He wrote a song just for me, and I think I'm getting pretty good at it. A friend? Angela's voice carried a note of concern. What friend? Is this someone from school? Malik hesitated. He'd been dreading this question for days. Not exactly from school. He's a grown-up friend I met in the park. Angela's protective instincts immediately sharpened. She stood up, her expression serious. Malik Thompson, you know better than to talk to strangers. Who is this man? His name is Mr. Leon, and he's really nice, Mama. He plays guitar beautifully, and he's been teaching me about music. He's not scary at all, he's gentle and kind, and he makes the most beautiful songs. Angela struggled between her natural protective instincts and the genuine excitement she heard in her son's voice. Malik had always been a quiet child, often seeming lost in his own thoughts. The idea that he'd found something, and someone, that brought him such joy was both wonderful and terrifying. Show me, she said finally. If you've really been learning music, show me what you can do. Malik's face broke into a grin. He hummed Leon's melody, his small hands moving in the air as if playing invisible keys, his body swaying with the rhythm just as Leon had taught him. The tune was hauntingly beautiful, more sophisticated than anything Angela would have expected her 7-year-old to know. That's really lovely, baby, Angela said, genuinely moved. But I'm still concerned about this man. Please, Mama, Malik interrupted, something desperate in his voice. This is really important to me. More important than anything I've ever done. I promise Mr. Leon is safe. He just loves music, and he's helping me love it too. Angela looked at her son's pleading face and felt her heart soften. She'd been working so much lately that she sometimes felt like she was missing important parts of his childhood. Maybe this was one of those moments where she needed to trust him, to show faith in his judgment. All right, she said slowly. But I have conditions. I want to meet this Mr. Leon before the talent show. And you practice where I can see you. Bring whatever instrument you're using home so I can hear your progress. Yes, ma'am, Malik said, throwing his arms around her waist. Thank you, Mama. You won't regret this, I promise. The next afternoon, Malik practically bounced to the park. Leon was waiting with Melody and the small keyboard, but today he also had something else, a small wrapped package sitting on the bench beside him. Mr. Leon, Malik called out. She said yes. Mama said I can be in the talent show. That's wonderful news, Leon said, his weathered face creasing into a smile. I have something for you then. Consider it a good luck charm. Malik carefully unwrapped the package to reveal a small harmonica on a leather cord, polished to a gentle shine despite its obvious age. This belonged to my father, Leon said quietly. He gave it to me when I was about your age, told me that music wasn't just about playing instruments, it was about carrying courage in your heart. The harmonica doesn't make the music, Malik. You do. Malik held the harmonica like it was made of precious metal. I can't take something so special, Mr. Leon. You're not taking it, Leon corrected gently. I'm giving it to you. There's a difference. Besides, courage shared is courage doubled. As Malik slipped the cord over his neck, Leon began their practice session. But today felt different, more focused, more urgent. They worked on dynamics, on stage presence, on the emotional storytelling that would make the performance truly special. Remember, Leon said as they finished their session, music isn't about perfection. It's about connection. When you're up there on that stage, don't think about the audience as judges. Think of them as friends who need to hear something beautiful. As Malik walked home that evening, his fingers absently touching the harmonica under his shirt, he felt more confident than he ever had before. He had 2 weeks to perfect the performance, and with Leon's guidance, he knew he could do something truly special. What Malik didn't know was that across town, A conversation was taking place that would soon threaten everything he'd worked for. The jogger's husband, Bill Martinez, was discussing his security rounds with Principal Davis, mentioning concerns about transients spending time near the school grounds. "We might want to increase patrols around the park," Bill suggested. "My wife saw some homeless man hanging around with a kid the other day. Made her nervous." Principal Davis nodded thoughtfully. "We can't be too careful when it comes to our students' safety." Neither of them knew they were talking about Malik's greatest teacher and most treasured friendship. But in less than 2 weeks, their conversation would set in motion events that would break a young boy's heart and test the true meaning of courage. The Riverside Elementary auditorium buzzed with nervous energy as families filed into folding chairs and students peeked through the heavy curtains backstage. Malik stood in the wings, his small fingers clutching the harmonica beneath his shirt, while his other hand gripped the edge of the curtain. The keyboard sat on stage, waiting under the bright lights that made everything look different, bigger and more intimidating than it had during rehearsal. "Malik Thompson, you're third on the program," Mrs. Patterson whispered, checking her clipboard. "Right after Tommy's magic show and before Sarah's ballet. Are you ready, sweetie?" Malik nodded, though his throat felt dry as sandpaper. He scanned the audience through a gap in the curtain, searching for the one face that would give him courage. His mother sat in the fourth row, beaming with pride and holding her phone ready to record. Behind her, he could see classmates' families, teachers, and Principal Davis in her blue dress. But the back of the auditorium, where Leon had promised to stand, remained empty. Maybe Leon was running late. Maybe he'd found another entrance. Maybe he was already there, just hidden behind all the taller adults. Malik tried to calm his racing heart by humming the opening notes of their song, Leon's song that had become theirs through hours of practice and shared understanding. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tommy Rodriguez with his amazing magic tricks," Principal Davis announced into the microphone. Tommy bounded onto the stage with a top hat and cape, immediately launching into his routine about making coins disappear. Malik barely watched, his eyes still scanning the audience. Where was Leon? He never missed a practice session, never broken a promise. Something cold settled in Malik's stomach. Tommy's act ended to enthusiastic applause, and Sarah Chin glided onto the stage in her pink tutu. Her ballet routine was flawless, every leap and spin executed with the precision of someone who'd been taking lessons since she could walk. The audience was captivated, and Malik felt his confidence crumble a little more. How could his simple song compete with such polished performances? "And now," Principal Davis announced as Sarah curtsied to thunderous applause. "Please welcome Malik Thompson performing an original composition on keyboard." The auditorium fell into expectant silence. Malik's legs felt like jelly as he walked to center stage, the bright lights making it impossible to see individual faces in the audience. The keyboard bench seemed miles away. When he finally sat down, his feet barely touched the floor, making him feel even smaller than usual. He placed his hands on the keys and froze. Without Leon's encouraging presence, without the familiar setting of the park bench, the song felt foreign to his fingers. The audience waited. Someone coughed. Malik could hear his own heartbeat echoing in his ears. Then, almost without thinking, his fingers found the harmonica cord around his neck. Leon's father's harmonica. Leon's words echoed in his memory. "Music isn't about perfection, Malik. It's about connection." Malik closed his eyes and let his fingers find the opening notes. The melody started soft and tentative, but as he heard Leon's song filling the auditorium, their song, his confidence grew. Each note carried the memory of afternoon practice sessions, of Leon's patient teaching, of the moment when music had first made his heart feel full. The audience, which had been restless during his hesitant beginning, gradually fell completely silent. There was something haunting about the simple melody, something that spoke to a deeper place than flashy dance moves or clever tricks. Parents found themselves leaning forward. Teachers exchanged surprised glances. Even the fidgety kindergartners stopped swinging their legs. Malik's small hands moved across the keys with growing confidence, adding the gentle flourishes Leon had taught him, building to the emotional crescendo they practiced so many times. When he reached the final, lingering notes, he held them just as Leon had shown him, letting the music breathe, letting it find its own natural ending. The silence that followed felt like forever. Then, slowly, someone began to clap. Another person joined in. Within seconds, the entire auditorium erupted in applause that felt different from the polite enthusiasm they'd shown other performers. This was something unexpected, something that had touched them in ways they hadn't anticipated. Malik opened his eyes, blinking in the bright lights, hardly believing the standing ovation before him. In the fourth row, his mother was crying and clapping simultaneously. But as he scanned the back of the auditorium one more time, his heart sank. Leon still wasn't there. "Magnificent, Malik," Principal Davis said as she returned to the microphone. "That was truly beautiful. Can you tell us who taught you to play so wonderfully?" The question hit Malik like a physical blow. He dreaded this moment, knowing that the truth would sound unbelievable. He leaned toward the microphone, his voice barely above a whisper. "A friend," he said simply. "A very good friend who loves music." "And where did this talented friend learn to compose such beautiful pieces?" Principal Davis pressed, her smile bright but her eyes curious. Malik's throat closed up. How could he explain Leon to these people? How could he make them understand that the most important person in his musical journey was someone they would probably dismiss or fear? He knows about music," Malik stammered, backing away from the microphone. As the audience applauded again and Malik hurried off stage, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Leon had promised to be there. He'd never broken a promise before. As the remaining acts performed, Malik stood in the wings, clutching his harmonica and wondering where his friend could be. What Malik didn't know was that at that very moment, Leon was walking slowly through the empty park, his heart heavy with disappointment and shame, carrying the empty box that had once held the harmonica, the only evidence of his presence at a school that had made it clear he wasn't welcome. 2 hours earlier, Leon had stood at the edge of Riverside Elementary's parking lot, watching cars arrive and families hurry toward the brightly lit entrance. He'd cleaned himself up as best he could, washing his face and hands at the park's public restroom, combing his graying hair with his fingers, and putting on his least worn shirt. In his jacket pocket, he carried the empty harmonica box, planning to give it to Malik after the performance as a keepsake of their time together. The main entrance bustled with activity. Parents carried flowers and cameras, siblings complained about having to dress up, and excited children chattered about their acts. Leon hung back, not wanting to make anyone uncomfortable with his presence, but his heart swelled with pride thinking about Malik sitting at that keyboard, sharing their song with the world. He circled around to the side of the building where he noticed a door marked "Gymnasium Entrance" during his afternoon walks. The sign said it led to the auditorium, and Leon figured he could slip in quietly and stand in the back without drawing attention. All he wanted was to see Malik's moment of triumph, to witness the boy he'd grown to love like a grandson share the gift they'd discovered together. The side door was propped open to let in the cool evening air. Leon could hear the muffled sounds of the talent show beginning, Principal Davis's voice echoing through the speakers, followed by bursts of applause and laughter. His weathered hands shook slightly as he approached the entrance, nervous but determined. "Excuse me, sir. Can I help you?" Leon turned to find a uniformed security guard approaching with the measured stride of someone accustomed to handling problems. The man's name tag read, "B. Martinez," and his expression held the polite but firm authority of someone who'd been expecting this encounter. "Good evening, officer," Leon said respectfully, removing an imaginary hat in a gesture his father had taught him decades ago. "I was hoping to catch a bit of the talent show. There's a young performer in there I'd like to support." Bill Martinez had been briefed about potential security concerns around the school, particularly regarding transients who might pose risks to students. His wife's description of the homeless man in the park had stuck with him, and this man fit the description perfectly. "I'm going to need to see some identification, sir, and proof that you have a student performing tonight," Martinez said, his hand resting casually on his radio. Leon's heart sank. He had no identification. His wallet had been stolen months ago, and replacing it required an address he didn't have. More importantly, how could he explain his relationship with Malik without raising more suspicions? "I don't have formal ID with me," Leon admitted quietly. "But the boy's name is Malik Thompson. He's performing a song that, well, it's a song I helped him with." Martinez's expression hardened. A homeless man claiming to have helped a student with something was exactly the kind of situation he'd been warned about. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises. School policy requires that all visitors be pre-approved and accompanied by a parent or guardian." "Please," Leon said, his voice carrying decades of dignity despite his circumstances. "I'm not trying to cause any trouble. The boy is expecting me. I promised I'd be there to hear him play." "I understand, sir, but rules are rules. For the safety of our students and families, I can't allow unauthorized individuals into the building." Through the open door, Leon could hear Tommy Rodriguez finishing his magic act, followed by Sarah Chen's ballet music beginning. Malik would be next. Leon's chest tightened with a pain that had nothing to do with his aging body and everything to do with breaking a promise to the most important person in his world. "Could you at least tell the boy that Leon was here?" he asked quietly. "Could you tell him that I tried to come?" Martinez softened slightly, recognizing genuine emotion in the older man's voice. "I'm sorry, sir. I really am. But I can't deliver messages from unauthorized visitors either. It's for everyone's protection." Leon nodded slowly, understanding that arguing would only make things worse. He'd lived on the streets long enough to know when a situation was hopeless, when dignity required accepting defeat gracefully. "I understand," he said simply. "You're just doing your job." As he turned to walk away, Leon could hear the distant sound of piano music beginning, tentative at first, then growing stronger. Malik's performance. Their song. Leon stopped walking and closed his eyes, listening as the melody he'd composed filled the night air through the open door. Even from outside, even through the brick walls and evening breeze, he could hear the beauty in Malik's playing. The boy had found his confidence, had taken their simple song and made it something extraordinary. Leon smiled through his tears, proud beyond words of what his young friend had accomplished. When the music ended and the applause began, Leon carefully placed the empty harmonica box on the school's front steps where someone would find it. Inside the box, he left a note written on a torn piece of sheet music. "For Malik, music is the bridge between hearts. Keep playing. Your friend who believes in you." As he walked back toward the park, Leon could hear more performances continuing inside the auditorium. He'd missed his chance to witness Malik's triumph in person, but the sound of that beautiful music playing their song would stay with him forever. Behind him, through windows glowing with warm light, the talent show continued. Malik was probably taking his bow right now, probably looking for Leon's face in the crowd. The thought broke Leon's heart, but he kept walking, knowing that sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to step away, even when it destroys you to do so. In his jacket pocket, his fingers found Melody's guitar picks. Tomorrow, he would play their song in the park, whether Malik came to listen or not. Music, after all, was bigger than any one moment, stronger than any single disappointment. But tonight, Leon Washington walked home alone, carrying the weight of a broken promise and the echo of a beautiful song. The talent show ended with Malik winning second place, a shiny silver medal that should have felt like the greatest achievement of his young life. Instead, as families gathered in the lobby sharing congratulations and taking pictures, Malik clutched the medal and searched desperately through the crowd for Leon's familiar weathered face. "Malik! Oh, sweetheart, I'm so proud of you!" Angela swept her son into a fierce hug, tears streaming down her cheeks. "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Where did that music come from, baby? It was like nothing I could have imagined." "Mama," Malik said urgently, pulling away to scan the crowd again. "Have you seen Mr. Leon? He promised he'd be here. He said he'd watch from the back." Angela's expression shifted from joy to concern. Throughout the evening, she'd been thinking about this mysterious friend who had taught her son so much. The sophistication of the music, the obvious skill behind the composition, it seemed impossible that a homeless man in the park could have created something so profound. Honey, maybe he couldn't make it. Maybe something came up. No, Malik insisted, his voice rising with panic. He promised. Mr. Leon never breaks his promises. Something's wrong. As they walked toward the exit, Malik's eyes caught something that made his heart stop. There, sitting alone on the front steps of the school, was a small wooden box. Even in the dim light from the school's entrance, he recognized it immediately, the box that had held his harmonica, the one Leon treasured because it had belonged to his father. Mama, wait! Malik broke away from his mother and ran to the steps. With trembling hands, he picked up the box and opened it. Inside, folded carefully, was a piece of sheet music with words written in Leon's careful handwriting. For Malik, music is the bridge between hearts. Keep playing. Your friend who believes in you. Angela found her son sitting on the steps, clutching the box and the note, tears streaming down his face. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered, sitting beside him and pulling him close. What does it say? Malik showed her the note, his voice breaking as he read it aloud. He was here, Mama. He came to hear me play, but something happened. Something kept him from coming inside. Angela looked at the note, written with such care and love, and felt her heart break for both her son and this mysterious man who clearly meant so much to him. Maybe we can find him tomorrow, honey. Maybe there's an explanation. But when they went to the park the next day, and the day after that, and every day for 2 weeks, the bench was empty. Leon's usual spot by the duck pond showed no signs of his presence. It was as if he had vanished completely, leaving only the memory of beautiful music and a small boy's broken heart. Why would he leave, Mama? Malik asked one evening as they sat at their small kitchen table. Did I do something wrong? Was my playing not good enough? Oh, baby, Angela said, kneeling beside his chair. Sometimes grown-ups have complicated lives. Sometimes they have to make hard choices that don't make sense to us. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong, and it definitely doesn't mean he didn't care about you. Malik nodded but continued to carry the harmonica in his pocket every day, hoping that somehow Leon would return to hear him play their song again. Years passed. Malik continued with music, eventually earning a scholarship to study piano at the State University. He performed Leon's composition, which he always called Song for a Friend, at every recital, every competition, every important moment in his musical journey. When interviewers asked about the piece, he would always say the same thing. It was written by a friend I can't find, someone who taught me that music is the bridge between hearts. One evening, 15 years after that talent show, Malik sat at a grand piano on a concert stage in the city, preparing for his debut performance with the symphony orchestra. The program included several classical pieces, but he had requested permission to close with something special, a solo performance of Song for a Friend. As his fingers found those familiar opening notes, now enriched by years of training and experience but still carrying the simple beauty Leon had originally created, the melody filled the concert hall with the same haunting power it had possessed in a small elementary school auditorium. In a shelter across the city, an elderly man with silver hair and kind eyes sat in front of a shared television, watching the concert broadcast. When the camera focused on the young pianist's hands moving across the keys, when the simple melody he had composed so many years ago filled the room, Leon Washington smiled through his tears. "That's my boy," he whispered to himself. "That's my Malik." The other residents of the shelter glanced at the old man talking to the television, but Leon didn't care. On the screen, Malik finished the piece and stood to acknowledge the thunderous applause. The camera caught him touching something at his throat, a small harmonica on a leather cord, still worn after all these years. Leon reached over and quietly turned down the volume, not because he didn't want to hear the applause, but because he wanted to hold on to the perfect silence that followed great music, the moment when hearts connect across any distance, when love transcends all barriers. In that shelter room, surrounded by people who wouldn't believe his story, Leon closed his eyes and smiled. Music truly was the bridge between hearts. And somewhere in that concert hall, his young friend was still playing their song, still carrying the courage Leon had given him, still believing in the magic they had created together in a park so many years ago. The song lived on. And that, Leon knew, was enough.